Hi, everyone. My name is Lynette Davis, president of A&D Media, and your host of Marketing Superheroines and Superheroes Unite. So thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. I have a very special guest. I'm going to allow her to introduce herself. Normally, I'll say the name, and then I'm like, oh, yeah, I messed it up because I said her name. Oh, dear special guest, tell me about yourself and how you serve the world with your unique superpowers, your USP.
Thank you. I'm Dawn Chitwood, and my company is Bravado Creative, and we do all things digital marketing and design. So most of the things we do have to do with social media, email marketing, launches, web design, and how that all kind of works together so that we can get our clients results. And so my superpower, I was racking my brain before we had this. I think what I said was that I was ambidextrous in both the strategy and the creativity. Is that what I said?
Yes, it was analytics and the creativity.
Yes, yeah. So, which I think it's really hard to kind of straddle that line, because I think a lot of people either live in the left brain or they live in the right brain. And so you're either really creative, but yet maybe don't have that strategy down, or that can kind of be a little bit scattered because you're really a big picture person and you're always kind of coming up with these ideas. And I feel like I'm somewhat ambidextrous with my left brain and my right brain, and I can be very big picture, but also understand like the I'm such a geek about the analytics and kind of getting into Google Analytics and all the insights and spreadsheets and figuring out how the results support the big picture and the goals.
Awesome. Awesome. So, you know what? Speaking of all the analytics and the Google Analytics portion of it, what is your understanding about the role that like Google Analytics and all those other strategy and analytics portion of marketing have to do with social media marketing?
Well, it's super, super important because I think that Google Analytics, it tracks your tracks your website analytics, right? So, but your website is the heart of your internet presence. Usually that's everybody's kind of internet home, let's say. And so all of those other pieces kind of feed into, they should be funnels into your website, right? Because that's only what they'll say. I heard an expert say at one point, you've got your borrowed assets and you've got your owned assets. Your owned assets would be your blog and your website. Your borrowed assets would be your social media, your email marketing, those kinds of, your Google AdWords, all of those things. And it's so important to focus your energy on your owned assets because that's what you have the most control over. So it's kind of like when a Facebook algorithm comes out and, we all get all in arms and it's like, oh my gosh, they made changes. Now it's not as many people are seeing things. And it's like, that's because we have less control over it, right? So how it ties in is, hopefully the goal is to create these other marketing strategies like your social media strategy and your SEO strategy and your email marketing. And hopefully that's all feeding people into your website. And so the analytics is uber important to gauging the effectiveness of the goals that you set, because otherwise you're just throwing things against the wall and hoping they stick.
Very good point. Very good point. Now, I know that you have just recently returned from some travels where you got to get kind of up close and personal with some people that are just basically talking all marketing.
It was amazing. I went to the Inbound conference, which was put on by HubSpot, and we'll get into that because I know you asked about one of the tools that I use for social media, and that is a tool that we are looking very soon to get on for our inbound marketing strategy. Not just social media, but it really manages all of your inbound marketing. So you can do pay-per-click management. It's a CRM, so it handles all of your client personas and your leads and kind of the funnel and the way that they go down through all of the different avenues with social media and pay-per-click and SEO. And so it manages all of that, your blogging, the whole 9 yards. So HubSpot put this amazing conference on, and we were all waging bets on how much they must have budgeted for this thing, because it was phenomenal. I mean, they had crazy branding. Everything was branded for HubSpot. They had some phenomenal keynotes. Seth Godin and Brené Brown were headlining, and they had Amy Schumer come in and entertain everybody. And so it was just an amazing conference. There were 180 educational sessions. So talk about conundrums. Every day there were at least 4 sessions in a time block that I would want to go see. But that's what it was all about. There were 14,000 people from 70 countries all talking marketing. So it was very intimidating. I had to get in my Wonder Woman pose every day and be like, you deserve to be here. This is you, everybody's in the same boat, you know, but just being among all that talent and expertise, and it was just an amazing experience.
Awesome. Awesome. So there's 2 things I want to go back to, and I'm kind of going to just take it from those 2 aspects. So first, I do want to talk about the tools, because I think tools are really, really awesome. And you were talking about HubSpot being a great tool for inbound marketing, but you were saying it's more than social media when we're talking about inbound marketing. And when I think about a tool that has all these awesome features, a lot of people, the first thing that everybody's kind of saying is kind of starting to become like a status thing. There's me and my purple pen, which is Infusionsoft. So can you tell me a little bit about the difference, if you don't mind sharing, between HubSpot and Infusionsoft? Are they even anything that you would compare, or are they completely 2 different animals?
So I can tell you from experience, because I used Infusionsoft earlier this year. I tried to use Infusionsoft. Let's say I tried. And I know that a large percentage of my failure with that tool was user error. And I understand that, because most tools there's a learning curve, you know, and for me, it was just too hard to really conquer that learning curve. I also found that Infusionsoft, in my opinion, was a really great thing for people who have, you know, product launches, and you want to get like a sequence of autoresponders to go out, and you're integrating your e-commerce, and you've got your payment gateway in there. And I can see how selling digital products or digital programs is a great thing for Infusionsoft. The difference, as I see it, with HubSpot is HubSpot, it has a lot of different added benefits. So Infusionsoft handled just that section of it, where HubSpot, I think, handles the blogging, and it handles the social media publishing and the social media research, and there's lots of great reporting. So I will say I probably didn't get into everything that Infusionsoft had to offer, but I think that HubSpot is definitely more well-rounded as far as all of the things that it can potentially offer. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. Plus, everybody that I met at this conference was an advocate, and they were all raving about how easy it was to use. And I need something easy. I'm a bright individual, but as far as like having to get used to these new tools, I want something that's got an easy to use interface.
Yeah, I totally get that, because, you know, sometimes I think about the tools, and they're like, yeah, you just need to learn how to use the tool and everything. And I'm like, how about they make a tool that is custom to us?
Yeah.
And the way we think already, not, okay, we're going to create this awesome, amazing tool, but you need to learn how to use it. How about you make a tool that is already in sync with the way we're already thinking?
Right. To hire I don't mind hiring somebody to manage it, but like you end up having to hire a certified like Infusionsoft expert, right? You know, like you have to become, in my eyes, it seems like you end up having to become an expert in the tool in order just to manage it. And I'd love to have a tool that was just more intuitive as far as, you know, managing your different, all the different platforms. So we'll see. It remains to be seen if, you know, this is the answer, but it definitely seems like it from what I've experienced so far.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, I think tools are awesome, you know, when they can. I'm telling you, I'm like more of a notebook and paper person. I'm like, you know, if they could just make a thing where like the notebook is cloud notebook. I think somebody finally did, and the pen was cloud, and I just write, and then it just goes in. That would be so much better for me.
Right. Right. I know.
But I think that technology is really awesome. But I wanted to go back to what you were saying about why you were there at the conference. You had to kind of go in and put your Wonder Woman pose on and tell yourself that you belong there. So I want to talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind. I want to talk about how at the end of the day, behind all of these tools is the woman, the superheroine, or the woman who has to bring out her superheroine.
Right. It's all about mindset, really, at the end of the day. I mean, if you think you can, you can. And if you think you can't, you can't. Right. So the tools are definitely there to help capitalize on what we are. So if we don't have the right mindset going into it, and it's so many things. It's mindset on time management and your productivity and learning and education and all of those things that you have to have. Your mind has to be in the right place. But yeah, it's super important in business. Wouldn't you say? I mean, I think that, what is it Calvin Coolidge says? It's persistence. You know, there's too many people out there with talent and genius, and really at the end of the day, it's all about persistence.
Yeah. I like to say persistence and consistency.
Yes.
Yeah, because I remember, I don't know who said it, but they were talking about a quote. It must have been in maybe a Get Clients Now book, which is probably one of my favorite marketing books. But they were talking about, you can have this great, brilliant marketing strategy and everything like that, but if you like don't do anything with it, anybody who can have just a average, mediocre marketing presence, but they're doing it persistently and consistently, will actually have better results.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. Yeah. I say that as far as social media, you know, I started out really building my Facebook, and Facebook became my #1 lead generator when I first started my business. But whenever I talk to clients about getting started on social media, I always remind them, because it'll be 2 weeks and they'll say, but I don't understand. Nobody engages, or nothing's happened. And I'm like, it's only been 2 weeks. Like,
yeah,
you really, like, people don't trust you yet. They might be watching, but you haven't earned that trust yet. And that takes time, and I did this Monday marketing challenge where every Monday I would say, what's your greatest marketing challenge? And we'll comment and we'll brainstorm and crowdsource and try to offer suggestions to figure out this challenge, right? And I did it for, gosh, I don't know how many weeks, but I remember the last Monday and I said, this is it. This is my last Monday. I'm not going to do it because every time I do it, I hear crickets. But I had done it consistently for weeks. And boy, somebody finally answered. And that person actually ended up being a client. So awesome. It was a good testament to just what you're saying. I mean, consistency. Just keep putting yourself out there and believe in what you do, but also having the wherewithal to recognize, like, what is my threshold for pulling out of this, and just say, okay, this isn't working.
Yeah, definitely. And that's another topic for another day, because I think sometimes, clients will want to know, like, okay, I've been doing this for such and such, this isn't working. Should I try this or whatever? And I think especially for you as a strategist, that's definitely something that you have to be able to address with them and be able to, especially looking at their analytics and go, okay, this isn't working. Maybe we should give this particular platform or method a try versus this, so you can kind of see what really does work for you.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's amazing to see how many, like, when I go into clients and they say, well, I'm on Facebook and I'm sending out a monthly newsletter and, I'm doing this. They give me like a list of the things they're doing. And I said, do you have analytics? Oh yeah, well, I have it, but I don't look at it, and I'm like, well, how do you really know what's working? And they don't. That's the problem. They don't know what's working, and they keep doing these things. And sometimes we'll look at things and I'll say, well, 80% of your traffic is coming from this right here. That's what you need to be doing. That's what you need to capitalize on. None of it's coming from this effort. Like, don't do that. Stop doing it.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. So there's so much involved with all of this, because you're right, with marketing, the marketing pie, right? There's so many different slices. So in your experience, what of all of these different slices would you suggest our viewers delegate? Because the thing is, we can't do it all. Even as you were talking about with certain tools, sometimes you need to hire somebody who specifically knows how to use that tool to manage it for them.
Right. Yeah, and I think that it's really important to separate the strategy from the management. So a lot of times, whether it's with your newsletters or whether it's with social media, or SEO, is like you'll go and you'll hire. There's different levels, right? You have different pay levels for this kind of help, and so there are virtual assistants, which some of them command a high rate, and their expertise is very valuable because they specialize in a certain thing. I think when people specialize in one thing, you end up commanding a higher rate. And then you've got people who might command a lower rate, that they would just be helping with the management of something. But we have to be really clear in our minds of what we're asking people to do. That's what I've noticed is probably the biggest pitfall for outsourcing, is not really being clear what you're asking somebody to do. And being very intentional in choosing that person. So I like to tell people, if they're coming to me and they have, maybe their budget doesn't allow for them to be doing the whole kit and caboodle, where we're doing the strategy and the management of it, I would tell somebody, well, it's important to put your dollars into the strategy. So if you pay somebody to help you with the strategy, and that's worth more money if you get a really good strategy. And then to be very clear on a plan to say, okay, now these are the tasks that need to be done on a regular basis. Then you might be able to find somebody that will fit your budget to do some of those day-to-day things. But don't ever just go and outsource the whole thing. Like, oh yeah, I need somebody to do my social media, and you push something off to somebody and you don't have a strategy, then you're probably setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, and I can definitely attest to that, as A&D is a done-for-you implementation service, but we do not offer strategy. So I typically tell clients when they do come, well, I do have some strategists I would like to recommend you to, even though I'm a strategic implementer. But I always tell people, ask people, do you have a strategy? Do you already have a plan?
Yeah. I mean, it's like getting in the car and going on a trip, and you've got your GPS, right? I mean, did you plug in the destination? Well, if you didn't, you're just going to be driving around in circles. I mean, you really aren't going to know where you're going. You can drive.
Yeah.
But if you don't have a destination. So it's really important. I think that's probably one of the major pitfalls, is really going into things 60 mile an hour, going, yeah, I know I need to do this, this, and this, but not really having a plan. So that's always my recommendation, is to put your money into strategy and then decide the next course of action. And I think you could really save a lot of money in the long run.
Yeah, I think so. And not only that, you'll save money, not because of, in my opinion, not because of who you're hiring, but you'll save money because you know what you're doing and you know what to expect. When you're just jumping in and just kind of, here, handle this, and we'll make things up as we go, you're very unclear, and that's a time and money waster. And time, is money sometimes. So I look at it that way as well. Like, when we're wasting time trying to figure things out, you're losing money.
You have to be cognizant of that, because unfortunately a lot of people don't really understand the value in strategy. Sometimes I think it's kind of like, well, what am I going to get out of it? That's all I'm going to get is a plan. And it's like, yes, but don't you, like, you have to have the faith and the understanding that strategy is what's laying the foundation for a strong implementation.
Yeah. And I think what makes strategy really good, especially if you're a really good strategist, not only will you lay out different tasks and steps that or you're trying to accomplish, but it also gives you what the end is supposed to also align with your vision for what the end goal is supposed to look like, so you know what you're working towards when you do get that implementation piece of it.
Right. Yeah, it's like what is the goal? How are you going to measure those goals? And then what are the campaigns that you're going to do to support those things? And when you have that in place, then at the end of as you're going along, at the end of the month, you can go and you can say, well, we've already predetermined this is how we're going to measure it. So we're going to measure it. Did we achieve this? Yes or no? It's not, it's really not a gray area at that point. It becomes very clear. And it's really becomes the only way to go once you figure that out. But I learned the hard way. It took me years to figure out what I needed to do.
Yeah. Awesome. And I think that's the case for a lot of small businesses because, or smaller micro businesses because, we're so busy trying to put out fires. Sometimes it's kind of like, I'm just going to use my instinct, and I'm guilty of that. I'm just going to use my instinct and see where I'm getting the most response from, and that'll be my analytics. Even though we do, like you said, we'll have it set up. Like, yeah, I have it all set up.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody will be on board with the gambling analogy, but I used to play blackjack, right? And I would go to Vegas, and I went in, and I'd be like, oh, hit me, yeah, sure, hit 17, I feel like it's going to be a 3. Yep, hit me. And then of course, that was not the right move. The book says you have to hit on it. And so once I had a dealer who was like, you need to do it this way. This is how you need to bet. You need to be very strategic. You need to go by the book. You need to decide something, and you go by that every time. And I tell you what, when I was taught that, I actually started winning. And I use that analogy because it's very true in business as well. You have to set those expectations. You have to set your boundaries, and you have to honor those as you go along. And if you have that clarity, you'll have a much better chance of success.
Awesome. Oh, I'm just loving this so far. And it's thanks because I'm already looking at the time. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to let Dawn get back to being her Ambi marketer self.
It's so fun to talk about this too. So yeah, it's hard for me. I got to remember time. That's another thing. Yeah.
Yes. So, I'm going to backtrack a little bit because I want to hear more about your favorite tool because in all of this, we were talking about relationships, but I want to hear more about this tool to help us do all of this because sometimes outsource is translated into a tool which will actually help the implementation process even more. So what's one of your favorite social media management tools to help you get done everything that you're doing?
Yeah, right. I hope that I really do hope that it's going to be HubSpot. However, HubSpot is pretty pricey. So beyond that, I'm using, we use Hootsuite. And that's just to really do our publishing. But, I would encourage anybody to invest in a tool and learn how to use it. Even though I think that HubSpot is pricey, I think that when you make that risk and you invest in something that's going to be scalable and allow you to grow, that you find, as long as you're consistent and you use the tool, that it'll end up paying for itself.
And I can take that and translate that into also when you outsource or delegate to implementation specialists.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So can you leave us with one final power booster before we end this call today?
My biggest tip, and I say this to myself every day because I can get caught up in these grandiose plans. I've got to do this, and this, and then you get started doing it, and you shut down because you realize that it's much bigger than you thought in your head. Right? I don't know if anybody else suffers from that, and then you get that overwhelm and you get that paralysis, right? And then nothing happens. So my biggest piece of advice would be to take very small, digestible action steps and do those and remember that you've accomplished those. Remember every day, instead of all the things that you haven't done, think about the little steps that you have taken and how they're all building blocks into that much bigger picture.
I love that. I love that because so many times we concentrate on what we can't do. We focus on what we can do. It builds confidence and trust in our abilities and what we can accomplish.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Dawn, I'm so happy that you were able to come on. And I'm so happy to finally meet you, see you face to face, because we have been networking for a while and this is the first time we met.
Yeah,
So,
we've been on the phone. We've even heard each other's voices, but yeah, this is the first time. And I just love that about the internet. I think that's really, I've got a few people and, you know, 2 years later, I'll meet them in person, you know, and it's like, I feel like I know you, you know. So,
definitely, definitely. Awesome. So I am just going to say, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Again, Dawn, thank you for joining us.
thank you. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
And until the next time, everyone, take care.